Hello everyone, hope that you are doing good. So as in my previous video, we learned how to expose the Hello World REST API on Swagger. Today in this video, we'll extend the previous project and we'll try to expose CRUD API on Swagger along with versioning. So if you haven't watched my previous video, do watch to get the context. Before we jump into the video's context, let me request you, if you find my videos knowledgeable, please do like, share and comment on the video. And if new to the channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Go to the project that we made in the previous video and you can see the project structure. So here what we were doing, we were just simply exposing a hello world API, right? So it was one URL that was /hello and that was getting exposed on a Swagger page. So now first of all, we'll be making CRUD APIs controller, right? So for that we need a model and then a repository and then some operations on controller part. I won't be going in depth of what is CRUD and how we are performing CRUD operations, because we have discussed many a times in many videos that how to write CRUD API. So let's simply start that how we can proceed further. So what we can do is we can simply make a package first. Let me go and make a package of first model, right? And then we have to make a package of repository. Go. So now let's take an example class as items class. Like there are items that we'll be saving into the database. So database that I'll be using here would be MySQL. So let's make a class called as item and let's put in few one thing that when we are defining, now you can see that when I am trying to import the @table annotation, we are not able to do that because if you remember that when we were making the project in the previous video, we were simply using the starter dependency and nothing else, right? And the Swagger Spring Fox dependency, right? So here what is being required, like I have already put that I'll be connecting it to MySQL database dependency. So I have put this MySQL connector dependency, but also we require the JPA dependency, that is the Spring Boot JPA dependency. We'll be requiring the JPA dependency. So first let me put the JPA dependency as well. So when now my JPA dependency is in my project. So now if I try to import the annotation, it would be, we are able to get the annotation and let me say as name equals and let me say items, and we also have to define it as an entity, right? And then we have the ID part. So I have already written the fields, so that's why I have directly pasted the code part. So this is not actually the implementation that you need to know, because we have various times made the entity objects in our projects. So this is like an item entity, right? This would be getting saved into the database. The fields that we have is the ID, we have name, and we need double price and the description, right? So let me say double, I'll not go and change it, double, right? So this is my items entity. Now what we need is we need a repository, right? So we need to make an interface, right? So let's say items repository, right? Repository, right? So items repository, and then we have to extend it with JPA repository, right? And we are not actually doing any custom operations, so we will be using the methods that are predefined in JPA repository. So this is my repository part done, and let's mark this as repository, right? So now my repository is ready, my the object is ready. Now what I have to do is I have to write a controller. So let's name a class as items controller, items controller, right? Items controller, and let's make it as a REST controller, and we will be marking the request mapping as slash items, right? And let's make a call to a database that will be returning us an items object only. So let me say items, and let's say we are saving this. So we'll be getting the entity request, we'll be getting the request body items, right? And then we simply need to return the value by saving it. So we need the repository auto wired here, right? So let's say auto wire, and we need to have our items repository, right? Items rep, right? So I'll use items repo dot save, right? And I'll put the items object here, right? So this is the API that will get exposed, right? So this is a post API, so let me mark this as post mapping, and let me also say it as slash save, right? So now what we have done is we have simply constructed a model for our application, and we have constructed a repository to save the data into the database, and then we have made a save call to the database for saving the items data. So now what we have to do is we have to go to application properties, and we have to add the complete configuration of MySQL to connect to the MySQL database. So let me add that. So these are the configurations that I need, and this is my Swagger version. That's my schema that is already made in my database. So this is my schema that is already made in the database. So this is the schema that is already made in the database, Swagger version. That is what I'm using right now. So let's now what we have to try is we have to run the code, and let's see what happens on the Swagger page. So let me go and simply run the application. So the application is running. Now let's go to the, so now you can see here that we haven't done any kind of versioning and anything, just that in the same package, that is the controller same package, I have defined another controller, that is items controller, and now it is getting exposed on the same Swagger page. So you can use the hello world API as well as items controller API. So now before running the APIs on Swagger, let's now understand how we can do the versioning of the APIs, right? So you know that there are various kinds of versions that we can expose on Swagger API, right? So let's learn that how we can expose the versioning of the objects, right? So for that, what we have to do is we have to segregate some things, right? So segregation of controllers would be done, and then the change in the configuration would be done in the Swagger configuration file, and then we are able to see the versions of the controllers, right? So now let's change a bit in the code. We'll also make some more CRUD APIs in our controllers. So first let's make the CRUD API. So let me go and get the data. So let me say get mapping, and let me say get data, right? And let me say public. I would be requiring a list, right? So list of items and get data, right? So there is nothing to supply, just we have to return the data, right? We need items repo dot find all, right? And this will return the list. And let's also expose a delete API. So that could also act as a post mapping, and let me say it as slash delete, and let me say public items and delete data. So right now what I am doing is I am deleting each and everything from the database. I'm not using the ID format way. So you can basically you can change the code anyway around as per your convenience, right? So we will be returning after deleting the data. So let me say items repo dot delete, right? So delete, and it is saying to pass the data, sorry. So we'll be needing delete and delete all, right? So we'll be deleting the data. Now, okay, it won't return anything. So let me say it as string, and let me call this operation first and then return data deleted successfully. Actually, I'm not using any constraints to check that okay, the data has been deleted or not, right? Because this is a very small project that we are looking at it, right? So we are just concerned about that how we can version our objects on the Swagger page, right? So now, as you can see that my items controller is ready, where we have the save API, get API, and a delete API. So now what I can do is let me make a separate package, right? So let me make a separate package, new package, and this would be controller.v1, right? I'll be making another, oh sorry, I made a mistake. Let me delete it. So it would be from here, and let me make another package, that is .controller.v1, right? So this is my another package that would be v1 package, and let me put this entity in this v1 package, right? This goes into this package, and rather than this I should rename this refactor rename. I shouldn't say .v1, I should say v1. That would be a parallel package, right? So now it's a parallel package with the controller package. So now let me again make a new package, and let me say v2, right? So it's another parallel package now, and let me copy this entity. First of all, let me refactor the name of this entity, sorry, controller, that is the v1 controller, right? So let me now copy this, and now let's go to the package of v2, and let's paste this here. It will ask me to change the name. No, it hasn't. So let me refactor it again, refactor, rename, and let's say it's a v2 class, right? So now what happened that I have segregated all the controllers, right? Now if we go to the v1 controller, it signifies that this is a version 1 of our controller, right? And version 2 is the active controller, that is right now having all the APIs active. So to just to depict you that how the versioning works, let me mark one or two APIs in this controller as deprecated. So let me mark the save API as deprecated, right? And also the delete API as deprecated. Let me say deprecated, right? So now in the version v1, that is the older version, you will be able to see that the save API and the delete API is being shown as deprecated, and the get data API is active, right? And when we go to the v2 controller, let me mark v2 get API as deprecated, right? So now the get data API on v2 controller is deprecated, but the save and delete are active, right? So now we have to do the changes in the Swagger configuration. So let's go to the Swagger configurations. First of all, if we are depicting two different controllers, and we are depicting that these two controllers are coming from two different packages, we have to make two docket API methods, two docket API beans to define that, right? So let me put that code. So now I have made two different beans, two different docket beans, wherein one is defining my controller package of controller v1 and the other one is defining my controller package of controller v2, right? So it signifies that this is the version v1 and this is the version v2. Now to make it generic, I have also change the API info method, right? Wherein I would be passing the version on which we are working, and according to that version, that particular descriptions would be shown. Like if the version is 1, then it will show deprecated. If the version is 2, then it will show active, right? And then we are building the data, and everything remains the same. Other things are other thing remain same. Now we have made two different docket APIs, right? Docket beans to define that we are working on two different versions of controller to show on the Swagger page, right? So now these configurations should work and should show us the versioning of the controllers. So let's go on the main class and let's run the application again. And let me run the application. So now my server has started. So let's go on the Swagger page again and let's refresh it. So now you can see that we can only see the items v1 controller and we can't see the hello API. Now that the reason is because I have removed the bean API for hello controller. So if you want to show the hello controller as well, you have to write the third API docket as well, bean docket as well for the hello controller, right? To define that in which package the hello controller is present and when from which package the hello controller needs to be read by the docket bean. So you have to define another docket bean for hello controller. I have removed it right now to show the versioning part. So let's go to the controller part, and now what you can see here is that here we have all the three APIs, that is the delete API, get data API and save API are deprecated, right? You can also see that CRUD APIs for operating over items and the version is 1.0 and deprecated, and this is coming from the Swagger configuration file, right? So the version, when version 1 is being passed, so it get passed into this method of API info, which says that if the version is 1, then I have to show that 1.0 is deprecated and 2.0 is active, and these title and the description remains the same, right? So these are the APIs that are deprecated. So basically what is deprecated API? It actually signifies that these APIs are not currently actively working in the project, but yes, we can't remove these APIs because there is some kind of a dependency on some other microservice or some other service that is directly using these APIs. When they will be moving to the version that is active, that is the v2 version, then these APIs would be removed from this project. That's why we mark some APIs as deprecated, right? So that the current version also works, and the previous version, if some API is if some service is using the previous version, then that service also could not that service also doesn't stop working because the APIs are being deprecated now. So this is the deprecated one. And now if you want to see the version 2, so you have to go here and you have to select the version 2, and now you can see that all these three APIs are active APIs, right? So now if to try it out, let me go on the save and let me try some data. We don't need the ID, so don't pass the ID now. Let's say description is testing items and name is testing, and the cost or the price is 200, right? So let me say execute, and what it shows is that the item has been inserted, right? So let's go to the database and let me first reload the database, the tables are being made or not. So the table is made, so let me get the rows. So yes, the first item is being inserted. So let's get the data from the Swagger now. So we have already done the save part. So let's go to the get data and let's try it out and let's simply execute it. So now it should say that we have the items. Yes, we have the items. Now let's go to the delete API and we have to delete all the data. So we'll also execute this. So we'll get a string message, deleted, data deleted successfully. How to check that all data has been deleted? Let's go on get API and let's execute it again. The empty body should be shown. Yes, the empty body is being shown. So let's again go to the database and check. Yes, so the data has been deleted. So this is how you can actually versionize your APIs using Swagger. It is very much used in the organizations that we version the APIs according to the changes in the data that needs to be supplied to our model to save the data. And also as per the needs that the other microservices are using the service. So that's why we mark some of the APIs as deprecated and some are active, right? So this was it from this video. Hope that you people like, share and comment on the video, and if new to the channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon. I will put the link of the project that we have built in this video in the description, and please do check the previous video to get the context that how we can get started with the Hello APIs on Swagger. So this was it from this video. Hope to see you in the next video. Till then, happy learning.